Breaking Down the Law is sponsored by Battle-Born Injury Lawyers.
Welcome back. It is time for our weekly segment, Breaking Down the Law, where we touch on topics and how it pertains to all of us when we're out and about in our regular lives. And we are focusing, for good reason, on gun control this afternoon. And we're joined by Matthew Hoffmann from Battle-Born Injury Lawyers. And with what's going on, and here we just had a live picture of the strip where the Fashion Show Mall is, and it wasn't long ago we had headlines where someone shot off a gun at the Fashion Show Mall. No one was injured, but you don't have to be in Dayton or El Paso for this to be top of mind. And we're going to focus on our congressional delegation and what's being done. Let's start with Congresswoman Dina Titus, and she reintroduced some legislation yesterday that people are talking about today.
Yeah, so Dana Titus, in response to the recent shooting, she announced yesterday she's reintroducing a bill that had already been introduced, the Keep Americans Safe Act. And what it is it proposes a ban on high-capacity magazines. So magazines that hold more than 10, shotgun shells or usually bullets would now be banned. You couldn't import them, manufacture them, sell them, possess them. And if you do, you'd be facing felony charges, up to 10 years in prison, and fines. The law is interesting in that it's specific in what it bans. It allows a grandfather clause. So if you already have these things, you're not breaking the law by being in possession of them. But anything that's possessed from the date of the law forward is going to have a specific serial number and a date, and only be allowed for law enforcement, military personnel, things like that.
And that's law enforcement and military personnel, which a lot of people call these weapons that are currently legal weapons of war, because here we have in Dayton where 9 lives were lost in some 30 seconds time. So that legislation will obviously get a lot of attention, what Dina Titus is reintroducing. Let's go to the Senate side of things. And right now, the leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, is being called Massacre Mitch because they would like for him to bring up renewed legislation as far as focusing on gun control. I know that our Senator Catherine Cortez Masto has been talking about this.
Yeah, so what she's signed on to is basically a reintroduction of law that already existed, the assault weapon ban. So in 1993, it passed and then went into law in 1994. It was a ban on all assault-style weapons, and there was a specific list of what the weapons were. And so that was on the books from 94 to 2004. And it had a sunset provision, so it expired in 2004 and has not been reenacted since.
And it did actually sunset, but then there was a decision made in D.C. that kind of really opens things back up again.
Yeah, that's correct. So in 2000, I believe it was 2008, Washington, D.C. had a ban on all handguns. And they had very strict requirements to be in possession of a handgun. And to get a registration, you had to have a lock on it. Various things. It was challenged under the Second Amendment, and in a very detailed decision, the Supreme Court basically declared that the Second Amendment provides an individual right to possess arms and found the DC ban to be unconstitutional. That's significant because for the 10 years that the assault weapons ban was in place, it was never challenged on Second Amendment grounds. Then now this law, this ruling from the Supreme Court comes into play. If it went back into effect, I think it would be challenged, and it may not survive it. And
Matthew, you know better than anyone when we talk about challenges. The challenge right now in America that we are familiar with is politics, and getting bipartisan support on anything these days seems like it would be a miracle, to say the least. But we appreciate you making sense of it all, and we really like these weekly segments that viewers are able to, you cut out the nonsense and you give us great perspective. So thank you for coming in today.
You got it.
Appreciate it.